Hey, welcome back to Specialness, episode 9. I believe this will probably wrap up our first season as we kind of get to the end of our story. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Kim.
And today we're going to be talking about Cason from the age of 18 to his current age, or very, very soon to be current age, 23. Mm-hmm. So I believe where we had left off was Cason had just graduated from high school, and he had gone through what everyone else was going through in 2020 with the drive-through graduations where you go sit in a parking lot or in your front yard in a chair and people would drive by and clap for you. So he had just finished that up. He had turned 18 in February.
Right.
So, and that's, we had been looking at my possibilities as a day program for him, but he was going to start that after he was done with school. COVID changed that.
Right.
So, we started online, probably over the summer, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, probably the summer, and then he did online until, I would say, almost a year.
Yeah, because I know that MP, my possibilities, I'll just, for everyone, MP is my possibilities. Is, like everybody else, they had to shut down in mid-March, and it took them a little while to figure out how they were going to continue to operate at any level because it's a in-person day program. So they did, introduce a online program, which was, what was it, like 2-3 hours a day, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
So he did that for, like a year.
It was like almost a year, yeah. Because
they
they opened back up, but because of his immune deficiency, we couldn't let him go back in person a little bit later than what other people did.
Yeah, right away. One of the interesting things that we had to deal with during the COVID pandemic that, obviously the COVID pandemic was a controversial time, and some people got the booster, some people didn't, some people worried about it, other people didn't. We didn't really have the luxury of having an opinion on it.
Right.
We pretty much had to shelter in place and keep Cason home, also keep our other son home, just because we couldn't risk the exposure for him in any way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we were homebound longer than most people were. They had started going back to my possibilities in person before he was able to go back. But when we were finally able to let him go back, we weren't sure how long he would want to be there, how many days a week he'd want to be there. Remember talking to him about that?
Yeah, he wasn't sure. He was hesitant. Obviously, it's a new experience for him. He's been used to going to St. Timothy for, 13 years? So this was all new to him. The school ended at, 3:15. And
small.
It was a lot smaller. And
so even though he was moving around, it was just a couple rooms next to each other, basically.
Yeah, so my possibilities would be totally different for him. And he would go until 5 or 6, which is a huge thing for him. So we started him off, I think, was it 3 days a week?
I think it was actually 4, and luckily we had toured it.
Yeah.
Before the pandemic started, because we did want to get him started so we could get our application in after he turned 18, but before he got out of school. So I think we toured it in January, might have been December.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
But I think, if I remember right, I think we started 4 days a week because we thought, well, you could kind of go 2 on, 1 off, 2 on, 2 off. You could go Monday, Tuesday, have Wednesday off, go Thursday, Friday, have a weekend. We were just concerned about, because it was 8 to 6, right? We went in full day in the beginning. Right. So we were concerned it was a long day.
Could be too tired.
Yeah. How do you feel that went?
He asked to go every day, 5 days a week.
Yeah, I think we got through maybe after 3 weeks. Yeah. He called and said, I think we're ready to just go to a 5th day. So, he's been going there every day they're open, 8 to 6 every day, which has been, I think we can both agree that has been, for everything that we have talked about and all the struggles that we have dealt with, and as great as St. Timothy was, the difference between having to pick Cason up at around 3 o'clock versus around 6 o'clock.
Big difference.
What a difference.
Yeah.
It just, I can't even begin to illustrate how much of a blessing that was. I mean, talk about what that was like for you, especially considering, you hadn't talked about this specifically, but you've talked about the struggles that you had of, when you have a child who's growing up but not really growing up. When you're still picking up your child at 3:15 in the afternoon, which feels like you still have a second grader,
right?
And he's 18, versus when we moved over to MP. How did you feel about how that impacted you personally?
No, it just kind of gave me a little bit more of a life, just because
a little bit more of a life?
A lot more.
Yeah.
Just because St. Timothy actually got out at 1 or 1:30 one day a week too. So
that was Fridays.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember.
Fridays,
so so I kind of lost a day there, and then like you said, picking him up at 3, I had to entertain him the whole afternoon. I mean, because it's not like you go home and he goes and does whatever he wants. I mean, that's just not how Cason is. It's like I need to play with him and I have to do everything. So it's like he's 18, yet I'm still entertaining him. And
again, the average 18-year-old is driving. They might have their own car. If they don't, they're driving around with their friends.
They're busy with school activity, whatever. But yeah, he didn't. So yeah, when he started going to My Possibilities full time, I mean, yeah, it changed my life, and it helped me tremendously with when he has doctor's appointments and things like that. Because before, when he would have doctor's appointments and labs and all that kind of stuff, it was pretty much an all-day thing, and he would have 1 day or 1 hour at school or whatever, and I didn't get much of a break from him. So this has been huge, and like we said, he absolutely loves it there. I mean, we can kind of talk about what he does.
Well, let's talk about My Possibilities real quick. You can just kind of give an overview of what My Possibilities is. It's certainly a rare thing in Texas. As we've talked about, Texas is we rank very low in the country as far as programs for adults with special needs, and there is some funding, but it's limited. The waiting list for vouchers is very long, and My Possibilities is one of, literally a handful of true day programs in Texas, much less North Texas. There are certainly group homes, that you can, that are out there that are generally managed by providers that might have 4 or 5 residents, and they've kind of got some programming, but it's really more just kind of living independently.
Right.
My Possibilities is, first of all, it's built in an area that is literally zoned for education by the city of Plano. It is referred to as the Fisher School of Learning, based thanks to an endowment from an angel investor, and they literally teach life skills there. So it was an introduction to a totally different type of curriculum for Cason, because he had been doing, kind of traditional. Not age level, but he was doing reading and math and the regular stuff. But now he's doing, job skill stuff, fun classes, sports talk, and
arts and cooking. He loves the cooking.
He does love cooking. And the longer he went, and the more they were able to ramp up after COVID, it started to introduce other opportunities. Like, he'd never played on a Special Olympics team, and they had a Special Olympics team, and now he
does basketball. He plays soccer. He does bowling.
He is the athlete, and they also have respites, which he goes to every one of them.
Which we were really surprised about, because a couple of years ago, he would have, the thought of that, there's no way he would have ever done it. But now he loves it. Like, his favorite's dinner and a movie.
He loves dinner and a movie.
Last night was dinner and karaoke.
Loves karaoke. And, we talked about how he kind of came out of his shell. Or did we talk about that? Did we talk about how he kind of came out of his shell toward the end of St. Timothy? Yeah, I guess we didn't. But he was starting to emerge his junior and senior year. He had, they'd have a talent show, and he'd he would be kind of stage helper. But toward the end, he was actually starting to participate. And now, once he got to MP, he was doing things that we just never thought he would do.
Like to have dances once a month.
Well, he's still pretty.
Yeah, he won't dance.
No, in fact, I have caught him moving to the music, is what he calls it. Because I've said, "Hey, are you dancing?" He's like, "No, I am just sort of moving to the music."
Right.
And we go, okay. So, we leave it at that. If there's any sort of theme, like they'll have a 50s night or it's a Halloween party or Valentine's or whatever, he will not dress up.
No.
So
he'll wear his same Star Wars t-shirts, but yeah, he will not participate in that.
But it's nice to go a place where you can wear a Star Wars t-shirt every day and nobody thinks it's unusual.
Right.
Which is what MP is.
Right. And he loves his curriculum. He does community outings.
Mm-hmm.
So
community
CBS
interaction.
Yeah.
Right?
So like his favorite is bowling. I think this semester he's doing like library, I think, and service. So I think they go to a church nearby and they kind of help whatever they need, but stuff like that. So they get him out in the community.
Yesterday they went to the Goodwill store.
They did.
Which is nice because basically what they're trying to encourage them to do, they're taking them out to allow them to, like if they go to a movie or whatever it is, it's really, and this sounds crazy, but it's really just an opportunity for them to interact with other people in a way that they can start to grow comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. Paying for a meal or buying a ticket or in Cason's case, buying a DVD at the Goodwill store. The exchange of money, the okay, that's $3 and having to pull it out or use a card or whatever you do. Just those types of life skills is what they really get from that CBI. But, they do things too, like they go to car dealerships and mm-hmm. see how the people work there. And it's great to see how participative those businesses or stores are and how the associates or people that work there are very caring and giving of their time too.
Right.
So it's been a real blessing for him to go there. Probably the biggest thing that he got to do was in the last 2 years. It was slowed down a little bit because of COVID, but we were able to introduce a sort of a job skills program mm-hmm. At MP, where he has been participating in the life skills side and then also participating on the job skills side, where he earned his food handling license and
he did.
Learned to cut cucumbers with knives and,
Yeah, and he, like I said, he loves cooking. This is right up his alley. And
he loves food.
Yeah, he does love food. But now before he wouldn't even pick up a plastic knife, where you go to a restaurant and the knife is there. He's like, "Here, Mommy, you hold it." And it's like, it's okay. You can have the knife sitting next to you. But now he actually will pick up a knife and try to cut certain things. But
I'm hoping we get to the point where he'll just call us Mom and Dad.
Not Mommy and Daddy.
We're still Mommy and Daddy. It's another thing that kind of keeps him
little.
Yeah, and I guess we've reached a point now. Honestly, I think one of the really nice things about MP is that, and let's not pretend that we're suddenly a whole lot more social than we were before, but it did expose us and has exposed us to a lot more families that are in the same situation that we are, because they serve, I want to say close to 1,000 hipsters, is what we call them, hugely important people, on a weekly basis.
I think it was 18
on up.
On it.
Right.
When Cason started, wasn't there a hipster there that was like 77?
There was a hipster there that was in his 80s.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's really gone all the way up the gamut. And it's a mix of people that are on waivers. In the state of Texas, you can get 6 hours a day on your waiver. So they're either there for an 8 to 2 shift or a 12 to 6 shift. And then there's a mix of some private pay people too who can run those same shifts or go 8 to 6. And there are some people who only go 1 day a week, and there are some people who go 5 days a week. So,
but it's a community where Cason, I think we've said before, it's like he found his people. You know, he felt that way at St. Timothy too. But it's like home for him.
He's real involved. Like, he wants to help with everything. And it's just so much different experience than school was.
Right.
Because even though he liked St. Timothy, the academic side of it was very frustrating. But when you get to MP, everyone's on the same page as far as we're just trying to facilitate a way for our kids to be able to make a contribution to society. And I think that's one of the great things about him finding that population and us being able to find it for him.
It's been a big blessing.
I think you could, if we were to list the blessings in no particular order, obviously Dr. T was a big blessing. St. Timothy was a blessing, but it's hard not to argue that MP hasn't been maybe the most impactful blessing we've had from a quality of life perspective.
Right.
For all of us.
For all of us. Yeah, not just him.
Yeah.
Like Jackson too. I mean, it's like our whole family. Okay, so I was saying during this time of his, I guess he's more like 19-ish or so. So he's probably a little bit older than that because he was already in person at MP at this time. But his mood had been fairly good and what we call stable. Stable, it wouldn't look stable to somebody else.
Stable is a state of mind, literally.
Right. But for him, stable, his hallucinations were so much better. Mm-hmm. And then, because Cason has to be difficult, his kidney function and liver functions just started.
You mean physically?
Physically.
It has to be complications physically.
Well, yeah. Anything with Cason has to be hard. So his kidney function and liver function start not being great, or the levels. And so
That's a good way to put it. Start not being great.
Yeah, not being great. Yeah, they're not normal. Let's put it that way. And
even for him,
yeah,
they're not normal.
They're not normal. So Dr. T was thinking, okay, this is the lithium, because I mentioned before, lithium in kidneys. It's hard on the kidneys. So our option at this point was to lower it significantly. And at this point, he was on a pretty high dose of lithium, but we really didn't have a choice because you need your kidneys and your liver. So I was extremely nervous about that because he hadn't been off lithium since the lithium toxicity.
Yeah.
And it's not that we were going off of it. We were just really lowering it.
And honestly, lithium is probably the drug he's been taking
the
longest consistently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Since he was, 5 or so?
I mean, he'd been taking it for close to 15 years by then.
Right. So she lowers it pretty significantly. I mean, not right away, just slowly. And very quickly, we noticed his anger really getting bad and his mood getting really bad. And it's bad when My Possibilities is calling me and saying that they're having to put him, or I can't remember what it's called, like a crisis.
Some sort of list.
Crisis something or other, because he was hurting himself, hitting himself, threatening to hurt other people. And
it's the one and only time that ever happened with MP.
Yes, and we were seeing that at home too. So of course I call Dr. T and I'm like, okay, this is what's happening. What do we do? And our option at that point was to just go up on his other medicines. We could not go up on the lithium, which those have their own side effects. But it was almost a year of us having to balance, kind of going back to that walking on eggshells around him and being a little bit more nervous of him, because even though we increased his other medicines, they were not touching the anger, his fuse, like lithium does. And but we had to get his kidneys more under control, and his liver. So we were seeing her, Dr. T, often, and I'm giving her the reports and stuff. And finally, after about a year, I was like, can we please go up a little bit on the lithium? We just can't, keep having him like this. And so she did, slowly. We monitor his kidneys and liver all the time. Right. And now we're not even quite back to the dose we were when we had to lower it, but it just was one of those reminders, and to her too, that if the thought was, maybe one day he can not take lithium, maybe he'll be okay now that he's almost 23. That kind of answered all of our questions to that. He needs to be on it. He is a completely different person off of it. Mm-hmm. And it brought back a lot of those days, memories of when he was violent, and for other people to see it, like I was saying, for my possibilities to notice it, and for them to say, it's kind of scary to see Cason like that, and to say, daily he was hurting himself and hitting himself and scaring the other hipsters because he was telling them he was going to kill them and things like that. And obviously you can't have that happen.
Yeah.
No. So that wasn't really good, but we kind of got back up on a higher dose of lithium, and
he leveled out.
He kind of leveled out again. And then we had to, because he's now an adult, we mentioned this in the last episode, that we had to start doing a transition from pediatric.
After we had acquired guardianship mm-hmm. of him and went through that process, mm-hmm. we now had to go through the transition from pediatric medicine to adult medicine.
Adult medicine. Some of his doctors kept him on until he was 21. In fact, we still see a pediatric cardiologist and endocrinologist, but everybody else was like, okay,
I only treat kids.
Yeah, and he's an adult, and they gave me the warning ahead of time that this is not going to be a good transition. You're not going to like it. The adult world is nothing like the pediatric world, and just get ready. And they were not lying.
Yeah, because if you think about it, if you think back to when you, for all you civilians out there who live a normal life, when you take your kids to the pediatrician, mm-hmm. They're so coddling and caring, and the nurses have lollipops and stickers, and then when you go to the doctor, no one's giving you stickers or lollipops. It's straight business, right? Hey, what's going on? What are you dealing with?
Well, the guardianship becomes a huge issue.
Oh my gosh. No matter what we tell them, they don't
right?
believe us.
They don't believe us, and it's like starting completely over. So I have been taking him to all these doctors for all these years, and we've built these relationships with them, and they know Cason. They know what not to do with Cason and what they can do with Cason as far as like touching him and talking to him and what he can understand and not understand. But now I'm literally starting completely from scratch. And even though most of our pediatric doctors had sent all the files and the records to these new doctors, they probably quickly looked over it. But then I'm there, and because when you look at Cason, he looks like a neurotypical adult.
Well, and that's where I kind of get to what I was saying, is that when they see him, they're like, so how are you feeling? And he doesn't know how to answer that.
No. And it's even when the nurses come in and they'll say, go to room 2. Well, he doesn't know where room 2 is, and he's trying to find, and I'm like, but it's over here, and they look at me like, why are you opening your...
And I think that's it, because, when they say to him, how are you feeling? And he's like, and he's looking at you or me, they almost give us a look like, Why doesn't he just answer?
Right.
You know,
Or when they'll be like, okay, get on the scale. And he'll be like, well, do I need to take my shoes off? And like, yeah. So I have to help him untie his shoe. And they just give you this look. And I'm back to that whole feeling judged and stuff.
Yeah.
And I want to be like.
And honestly, we're probably a little more sensitive.
More
Absolutely
sensitive
a
to
little more
it.
sensitive to it. It feels like a lack of understanding.
Right.
I mean, it is, but it just feels curt and.
Yeah,
It doesn't feel good.
The patience isn't there across the board. Again, they look at Cason, and it doesn't take them long to figure out that there's something not right with him.
Right.
But it does not stop them from asking him questions. When's your birthday? And he starts to get nervous, and he'll say his stutter speech and. When's your birthday?
And
that kind of thing.
I know you told me about some experiences you had where even though they knew you were the legal guardian, and even though they knew he had special needs, they would ask him a question, and you'd start to try and speak for him, and they'd be like, he needs to answer this.
Yeah, I want to hear from him.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like, hey,
right,
I'm the guardian.
Right,
And
it's just different. Like going into any pediatric office. Especially like a children's hospital, it's like, hey, Mom, and now it's just like, Cason, and I'm like, you need to speak to me. I'm the one, and they just, no, I need him, and it's just, they just don't understand it.
Yeah.
The pediatric world doctors told me they lack compassion, and there's a reason why those doctors decided not to go into peds.
Sure.
I mean, you've got to be a completely different kind of person, and they get frustrated much more easily with Cason because he is a child, but they look at him and expect him to answer and expect him to do the things that an adult doctor says.
Not to mention that they're frustrated with the fact they can't understand what's wrong with him.
Right.
And they can't understand why he's taking medication that's really bad for their liver or his heart or whatever it is.
Right.
There's.
So we're back to that whole
We're going through all that stuff again.
Right. Which is very frustrating, not just for me, or you that take him, but for him, and it's put a layer of stress on him. Now, when we go to these doctors, he's instantly like, hey, we have guardianship, right? And they're not going to ask me questions, and I don't want to talk to them. And it makes me sad for him in a way because, we're at the doctor all the time, and
it indicates. It's a constant reminder for me of how vulnerable he is.
Right.
I'm glad he's self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
And I do remember that, he clearly was struggling with the lowered lithium. But one of the things that I thought when he had that incident at MP, but the one thing that was different from when he would have an incident like that in school was when I told him, oh, well, we need to fix this. And he also had the wherewithal and self-awareness to say, my medicine's not right.
Right.
Right. So there was definitely some real improvement there from a perspective of his own self-advocation for himself, but he also knows his limits.
Right.
And I think that's what's really apparent when you're making those moves to adult medicine.
Right. Because he still sees 8 doctors on a rotation.
Yeah. We still have the team.
They're a different team except for a couple doctors, and still getting labs constantly and that kind of stuff. So I would say 18, like we said last time, 18 was a big year, a lot of emotions for us as parents. And then that 18 to 21 was another big. 21 was hard.
Man, selfishly, the one thing I think about 18 that was, this is crazy to say, but 18 wasn't nearly as bad as it could have been because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were dreading the whole, everyone's going to be doing all these senior activities leading up to graduation, and they're hearing about where they're going to college and prom, all those
things, yeah.
All these social posts along the way. And we really didn't have to deal with that because nobody could do it.
That's true.
So
we kind of lucked out.
That's horrible to say for all the kids out there who had their senior year stolen from them. But,
right.
that was oddly kind of a small blessing for us as we were dealing with that transition ourselves. The other thing we were talking about, when you turn 18, there was guardianship, there was MP, the application for MP, and there was Social Security. And we had some friends whose kids were at the school who were a little older, and they had already graduated, and they had started they were on Social Security, the Social Security, the SSI benefit, which is, I think,
which you can only apply for when he's 18.
Yeah, you couldn't apply for it before you were 18.
Right.
But it obviously got you on Medicaid, and it gave you this stipend monthly for expenses because you're not able to work. We initially thought, because we were told, look, it's not nothing, but it was like $900. It was a little less than $900 a month, I think, at the time, which is not nothing. But we were just told, okay, you have to account for every penny. You have to turn in receipts. If you don't do it, they'll take it. They'll take you off. They're kind of always looking for a reason that you don't need it. And at the time,
for if Cason doesn't need it, not you and me. This
right.
is all for Cason.
It's all for Cason. I guess at the time we just thought, do we really want to do this now? Obviously, COVID made that a little easier because the courthouses weren't open and it was harder to do everything. But I remember that we also at the time were like, we'll
do that later.
We'll do that later.
Yeah. So guardianship was enough at that point.
Yeah.
It was like,
so I think about the time he turned 20, which is 3 years ago, we said, okay, we'll start looking into this because, again, this has nothing to do with our income. If something happened to us, we need to make sure that he has these benefits and could.
Especially the Medicaid, because if something happened to us, he would not have insurance,
yeah.
And he would need this.
Yeah.
So we were like, we need to go ahead and do this.
So we're going to start that process. We had asked people about the application process, and we were told universally, you will get rejected the first time you apply. And we were like, how is that possible? I mean, have you met Cason? If anyone meets Cason, they're going to know he can't function independently.
And supposedly Social Security has like 2 or 3, I don't remember. No, not even 2. I don't know. There's a whole list of things. Like if you have these issues, you're an automatic
right.
Like you're in. And schizophrenia is one of them. Right. Neuromuscular is another one.
Cason had 3 or 4 of the automatics.
Right. So we were like, why would he not get Social Security the first time? Like, it makes no sense.
You have to demonstrate that you're incapable. You have to demonstrate those things. So
lots of paperwork.
Yeah. So we got the help of an agency who helped us put together the initial application. Cost a few $100. It just made us feel like, well, now if we get rejected, it won't be because we didn't do something right on the application. Mm-hmm. And we did get rejected. So let's talk about what it was like when the Social Security got back to us and said, all right, you're going to go see these. You need to go see these doctors. Our records weren't good enough, right? We had to go see their chosen doctors. It was
one was a
like a psychiatric.
One was a psychologist,
yeah.
And one was a general practitioner, or
right.
Whatever. And
one for the mental side, one for the physical side.
Right. And and this is actually before we got denied.
Right.
The first
This
time.
is what led to the denial.
Right.
Yeah.
So we had, like you had said, we had sent in all these tests and doctor's notes and everything of all the years we've been dealing with Cason, right?
With the original application.
And we get a letter saying Cason is to be at this doctor on this date and this doctor on this date. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Can't reschedule it.
And I was like, what? So we called the consultant and asked her, and she was like, yeah, unfortunately, you're going to have to do what they say and just go with it. So Cason was very nervous. The instructions are bring all of his medicines in the correct bottles and everything he takes. So I literally pack up like a bag because I had to bring his infusion stuff. I had to bring everything with him.
Did you bring the CPAP?
I did not have to bring the CPAP, but I had to document. I had to write all of this stuff down.
All of it was written down.
Yeah, and so we go in, and let's just say to say it nicely, there's a reason why this doctor does not have a private practice.
Now, which doctor are we talking about here?
This is the
This is the general practitioner.
General practitioner. Yes. There's a reason why he's working for Social Security and not having his own. It was a joke and a complete waste of my time. And
it was like a strip shopping center, right?
Yeah. And he was supposed to have read over Cason's information, and he had no idea whatsoever was wrong with Cason. And he's looking at the medicine and typing up, and he's just like, why'd you take this? Why'd you take this? Why'd you take this? And he made me line it up on the exam table.
Yeah, you told me about that. You had to line up all the bottles in a row.
Yeah, kind of like, because he takes 2 different lithiums, and he takes the 3 different doses of Clozaril, and he needed that all, the Clozaril together, the lithium together, the Lamictal ones together, and I had to explain why he takes each one, and the times and the doses. And
for what he was taking them for.
Yes. And he's just typing away, and he literally, he acted like he could have cared less. And then he looks at Cason, and he was like, Cason, count to 10. Cason's 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's good. Count backwards from 10. Cason just was like, 10? And it took him a while because he's having to think. And he's like, okay, that's fine. And then he says, Mom, you stay here. Cason, come with me. And I'm like, where are you taking him? He's like, you can't come, but Cason's coming with me. And again, I'm like, what are we doing? What's going on? They were gone for probably 20, 25 minutes. And Cason comes back in, and he's furious. And he sits down, and he was like, he's stupid. And I was like, uh-oh, like, what happened? And the doctor hasn't come back in here. And Cason's like, I said, well, what happened? He's like, he made me sit and stand in all these different kinds of chairs. And he kept telling me that my back hurts. And I'm like, your back?
He told him his back hurt?
And I was like, why would he say your back hurts? And he was like, I don't know. I kept telling him my back doesn't hurt. And he goes, when did you get hurt? And Cason kept saying, I don't understand what you're asking me. And this went on for like 20, 25 minutes. So the doctor comes back in, and he goes, okay, I have everything I need. He goes, I'm going to say he's disabled. And I was like, okay. And I said, do you mind telling me what you did in there? And he goes, oh, I had to make sure that Cason's back injury isn't going to help or not let him work. And I said, he doesn't have a back injury.
We're not here about a work-related incident.
He goes, you're not?
Oh, my God.
And I was like, no. I said, do you not remember the line of medicines and everything? Needless to say, we both...
And this was during the same appointment? You didn't meet with anybody else in between?
No.
Okay.
No.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So I left. Cason was furious.
You've been told he's going to mark on the sheet.
He said
he's disabled.
He's disabled. So then...
But he was also quick to point out something else.
What?
I'm marking him disabled. If for some reason you don't get approved, I just want you to know it's not my fault because I'm saying he's disabled.
Right.
Which was weird.
Which is weird. So then about a week later, we have to go to the psychologist. And because of what had happened at the other doctor, Cason was not wanting to go. He was already in a bad mood. I wasn't wanting to go. And that appointment was worse than the first appointment.
Why was that?
She wasn't very nice.
Okay.
Is a polite way to say it. Questioned a lot of things. Questioned with him sitting beside me, said things like, so he's adopted, and
which has nothing to do with the case,
right? And I'm like, yes. And he said, well, he didn't want him.
That's weird. Most people wouldn't even know how to answer that question because most people
what does this have to do?
Option.
And then he said, she's like, so you couldn't have kids?
That's a very personal question. It has nothing to do with anything.
Right. Then, so who in your family?
She said it like that? So you couldn't have kids?
No, she didn't really say it like that.
Right. She was like, so you couldn't have kids.
Right. Then she said, so who in your family gave up Cason? And I just looked at her and was like, I don't have any understanding of what this has to do with Cason getting Social Security. She says, I'm just trying to get a background. I just have to get a background on him. And I said, this has nothing to do with Cason. And I said, first of all,
this has nothing to do with Cason's
Social Security
adoptive process.
No. And I said, he is not biologically related to us. You know, I said, we went through an agency and then she goes, okay, when did he get this genetic deletion?
Did you say, well, when he was born?
Yeah.
Okay.
When he was born, right. She was like, well, I've never heard of it. So are you sure you didn't make it up? And I'm looking at her. Thankfully, Cason has an intellectual disability and didn't understand what she was asking, because I think he would have literally wanted to go punch her in the face after the things she was saying. And I said, no, I didn't make up a genetic deletion. And I said, we're not here. I'm not trying to commit fraud. If you had read all of his notes, you would have known the answers to all of this.
We've submitted all the supporting documents.
Right. I said, he has had like 5 neuropsych evals that are fine. And she was like, well, I have to do my own. And I said, we're doing a full neuropsych eval here? She goes, well, no. We're just going to do like a 20 to 30 minute IQ test. And I said, the IQ tests are part of the neuropsych evals. It's all in his chart. And she was like, well, I have to do my own. And you can't be here when I do it. And I said, well,
you're going to get him answers.
I said, I am his guardian, and I'm not going to leave him in here with you. And she was like, well, you need to. And if, you're going to be difficult, then I'm going to put that in the paperwork. So I told Cason, okay, I'm going to leave. I'm going to be right outside the store. And if you at any point need to, you can get up and walk right to me. And she's like, it'll only be 30 minutes. Well, he was in there for like an hour and 20 minutes. And he comes out and he had a bunch of candy and he was like, can I eat this? And I said, yeah. And he goes, and she's stupid, which is always my first hint, clue that he's frustrated. And she looks at me and she said, okay, we're done. I'm going to send in the report. And I don't know if I'm going to, what I'm going to say. And so I leave after like a 4-hour appointment with her. Cason, once again, is beyond frustrated. And he's like, I am not going to these doctors again. And so I asked him, I was like, what happened in there? And he just starts telling me that she didn't believe him, that he didn't understand what she was asking him to do. He needed to read certain things, and spell certain things, and do certain math problems. And she kept saying, oh, you could do better, and keep trying.
Didn't believe him.
I don't know. That's what he said. He was so frustrated. So all that to say, it was an extremely frustrating time. And then about a week after that, we get a letter from Social Security saying Cason's been denied due to both those doctors' reports.
Both the
doctors' reports. Not any of our doctors that have seen him and have a relationship with him. These 2 doctors, their reports. In fact, she even said, the psychologist even said that he functions on a 1st and 2nd grade level, but that she thinks he can
get a job and
support himself. So, needless to say, we appealed, and that was in June.
We appealed last June, so then we're approaching 8 months.
And
I looked it up. They're in the 3rd step. They have just begun the 3rd step of 5 in the appeal.
And if he loses that appeal, then we have to hire a special needs attorney and literally go to court.
And literally sue the government.
With Cason.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been told that if you get to that step, almost 100% of the time, all the judge has to do is look at Cason and ask him a couple questions, and the judge will be like, why are we still here? This is ridiculous. Needless to say, it's an extremely frustrating situation because if this is happening to us, it's happening to everybody else that's trying to
Well, we
help
would
their...
assume so. We seem to
weird
draw
things
the
seem to happen.
the weird straw.
Yeah, the very weird straw.
But yeah, you would assume it's happening. I don't think I don't think anybody would be surprised if it just seems like, certainly more so the psychologist than the general practitioner. The way and I'm just glad I wasn't there, and I'm sorry you were there without me, but it just seemed like she had some sort of power thing going on. Like she just enjoyed not approving people for some reason.
I don't know. But I think they get some kind of kickback or something for the amount of people they deny. I don't know what the deal is, but it's sad and frustrating.
And again, we're not talking about a whole lot of money.
No.
I mean, $900 a month.
And that's like, if he even gets the full amount. If you get the highest
level, we're talking about $11,000 a year, which nobody can live on that. So it's not like we're talking about a tremendous amount of money, and the fact that he's denied, even though the report said he has a first grade intellectual level, that he could get a job
and support himself.
Yeah,
it's a joke. Really, it's a joke and very frustrating. But okay, so during 19 to now, I would say we're talking about like Cason's health and that he still sees all his 8 doctors on a rotating basis, and we're saying like his mood's much better, but we're saying physically weird stuff seems to pop up with him. Like one day he'll just start throwing up, random, and that goes on for a while, and then we have to have all these tests done, and the answer is we don't really know what's causing that. So and
then it won't happen for a while.
And then they have to go on a medicine to help him not throw up all the time. And that has its own side effects. And
believe me, he gets freaked out when he throws up.
Right.
Yeah.
Then he has a weird heart arrhythmia that pops up. And again, you're like, we don't think this is the medicine. And we think this is from the genetic deletion. And
this has been here since 2022.
Yeah, and he does have chest pain when he exerts himself, but we don't know if that's the asthma. So it's just a constant thing. Then his parathyroid went weird, and then he had bone and calcium issues, and it's just with him, it is a constant. You think you're in the clear,
right,
and you think you're smooth sailing, and then something else comes up with him.
Yeah.
Physically, and I'd say mentally, but mentally, he is in a good place. Like I said, when we say stable, it's not stable to
right.
Neurotypical
stable civilians.
It's not.
Yeah. It's not stable to civilians.
No, but for him, he's happy.
For members of the SNA, the Special Needs Army.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's happy, and he, just to kind of wrap up our almost 22nd year he'll be 23 in a week or so, but he is happy. He loves going to My Possibilities.
Yeah, he's definitely the happiest he has ever been.
Yeah, he loves. We never mentioned that we had found a church. Remember we had talked several episodes ago that we kind of were kicked out of our church.
Yeah, we searched for a number of years to find a church, and we found one that has a great special needs ministry.
Right.
And that's something else we'll have to talk about is, faith, praying, having something to count on is pretty important, And even for us, the fact that we had to go looking for a church based on if it had a special needs program, not so much how the church was.
Right.
Right. Not if it was the right church for us, if it was the right church for him.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's another one of those, compromises that we have to make so that we can have a semblance of something,
right,
of a life. Yeah.
He loves going to church, and
the special needs program is amazing.
And the church is amazing.
Church is amazing.
They have Special Needs Sunday where the anybody.
And I think that's very rare. Even I think that there are very few churches that are willing to make the investment in attracting families with special needs, and even fewer that champion it the way that Adventure Bible does.
Right.
So it's just amazing.
Yeah, it is. And it's nice to be able to go to church, and no matter how Cason is, they handle it. They don't, oh, we're going to come get you, or
it gives us an opportunity to go, and for a little over an hour a week, we can actually sit and contemplate our lives in a way that doesn't have to be wrapped up in him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's good. And I think we mentioned earlier, he's real involved in sports, Special Olympics. And that's, again, we didn't think he'd be able to do that. He has some physical limitations with his neuropathy and chest pain and stuff, but, he loves it. And Special Olympics is a great organization, and it's kind of given him an opportunity to be a part of a team, which is
a team that he proudly says he's the captain of.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and that's the other thing I think, and we're kind of bouncing around here, but one of the other things I think he's really picked up at My Possibilities is honest to God leadership skills.
Yeah.
He has been both put in a position to lead there and has taken the opportunity to do it. He's on the Hipster Council. A lot of hipsters. I don't know if I told you this, but when we did a panel,
yeah, good panel.
There was two other hipsters on there, and his mother came to me and she said, "I just want you to know that he really likes Cason." I said, "Oh, that's really nice to hear." And he said, "No, seriously, like, Cason has given him confidence to do things that he wouldn't have normally done." And this guy actually had the lead in the musical that we did a couple of years ago. And he said one of the things that he said was that Cason told me I could do it, so I believed I could do it. And I just heard that, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a real mistake that people who don't know this community can easily make, and that's that they can absolutely make a real impact on the world around them. But people just don't think they can. And My Possibilities really puts all of these kids, we call them kids because they're our kids, but
they're adults.
Yeah, but they give them opportunities that the regular world won't give them.
Mm-hmm.
And they advocate for them and help them find jobs and live independently, and it's
there are some that live independently.
Yeah.
And
they take the bus in, they take the dart in,
yeah.
And learn some responsibilities. There was a time, and I remember when I sat down with Charmaine, who was the founder of My Possibilities, 10 years ago. I was just meeting her for the first time, and I was talking about Cason, and I was just, at the time he was 12, 13 years old, and we were going through a rough time. And I was just like, I just don't know what the future holds for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember she said, "Oh, don't sell him short," essentially. And I watch him now, and I just think he's doing so many things I never would have thought he would be able to do.
No. I mean, that's what I had written down when I was thinking back of, like, okay, look at one of the second or third episode of the podcast, and how we were told to institutionalize him.
Yeah.
That at 6.
Throw him away.
That he's not worth your time. He's not worth your effort. It's going to be hard. Don't do it.
Yeah, we're right about that.
And I literally wrote down, I said that this journey, the 23 years of parenting Cason, has been the hardest thing I have ever had to do and will continue having to do. It's not going to end tomorrow. It's very hard, but at the same time, to look at who and how he is now versus when he was 6 and 7, and we were those parents that were like, what are we going to do? I mean, he's violent, he's hurting us, what are we going to do? And he's happy, he's the most caring person.
Yeah, he really is.
He has a heart for others. We've said all along, like that one episode when he was not in a good place, but he said to you, where in the Bible does it say that Jesus can help me?
Yeah.
He has a relationship with Jesus that is extremely interesting.
It's innate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he has the faith of a child. You know, he's not burdened by a lot of the things that we are, and and
when he sees another hipster or a friend hurting or having a bad day, he'll be like, Mommy, we need to say a prayer.
Yeah.
So-and-so had a bad day today. Or, it's just, his heart is so good. And we're very thankful that Dr. T saw who he was, minus the mental illness and autism, because if it wasn't for her and her dedication and her amazing help, he wouldn't be where he is today.
Yeah.
And it's a lot to reflect on, because when people meet him now and they hear our story and we tell them, oh yeah, but he was like that or whatever, and they're just like, no way. I wouldn't see that, because Cason's he loves to give hugs. You can't just go up and hug him.
No.
You have to.
Let's say that right.
Right.
He loves to give hugs.
You can't.
You cannot go up and touch him.
No. And we can't kiss him. Like,
I haven't kissed him in years.
Since he was a baby.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. You can't do that, but.
And he will not kiss you.
No. But he just has a heart for people, and I'm proud of us. Yeah.
You know what's great about Cason is you can literally go up to him and say, Cason, I've had a hard day. Can I have a hug?
Yeah.
And he'll give you a big hug.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, you know, as we kind of wind down this final episode that was kind of meant to provide everyone a high level look at our journey. You know, the reason why we did this podcast is, you know, you told me the past summer, you said, man, I've been through so much, and I feel like people ask me about things all the time, and I just feel like I want to help people who are dealing with this. And you talked about writing a book, and I said, I don't know if you want to write a book. You don't particularly enjoy writing, A. And B, you know, getting a book published is hard. And so we talked about this, you know, and this is something that, you know, I have done through the company that I have, that we produced this type of media before. So being able to do this with the intention of not just sharing what we've been through, but also trying to provide insight for people who are going through something similar. Every journey is different. And even though we have sat here for now 9 hours talking about how hard this journey has been, I think you would agree that while the journey is never going to be easy, it will always be hard, it is easier now, right now, than it was 10 years ago.
Yes.
And the fact that we have been through the things that we have been through, that he is at MP, that he has found his place, that he is making his contributions, that right now his medicinal cocktail is keeping him leveled. by no means do we have anything close to what people would consider a normal life, but it is manageable.
Right.
And
Right.
it will always be hard, but we have hope now that we didn't necessarily have 10 years ago.
Right.
We have dreams for Cason that I know I didn't have
Yeah. Oh, no way.
10 years ago.
Mm-mm.
So, the objective here is we wanted everyone to kind of get to know us, but ultimately what we want to talk about moving forward is we've been through, and you have done so much more of this than I have, but we have been through so many battles to get where we are. We have had to climb so many hills to pay for it all, to be in all the right places, to go to all these appointments with him, to deal with the weird diagnoses and the constant additional of you can't take this and here's wear these on your feet. I mean, it's always something. And we have fought so many battles that we're hopeful that just by talking about how we did it, and we're not in any way going to ever say there's only one way to do this, because every case is different, there's not one way to do this, but hopefully we can help people with how do you find the right doctor? How do you know you have found the right doctor?
I think you just kind of said it. I think the biggest thing is to give people hope, because if you were told 10, 15 years ago, well, like I said, we were told when he was 6,
yeah,
he's just not worth it.
Yeah.
And every day another mom is sitting there getting a diagnosis of autism
and I know people are out there struggling financially and with their faith and with their marriage.
Yeah.
And, I'm even interested to hear what we're going to say about some of those things, because so much of what we've done just seems like we adapted to, you just have to live things one day at a time. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's the nugget of advice I would give to people right now before we get into these other specific things. One of the things we learned early on was that there was just no point in planning anything. There was no point in planning to go anywhere or and I don't mean like a vacation. I mean like where you go to movies on Saturday.
Yeah. Go to the grocery store.
We just never knew it was going to happen. I can say we don't feel necessarily that way now. I feel like we can plan a trip to the movies on Saturday, and we'll probably pull that off.
Right.
But, there was a long time when we couldn't do that. And, I know that people that we have talked to in small groups or have found you through something because of something you posted on Facebook or something in the past, people we don't know particularly well or know us through somebody else are asking us questions about, gosh, I can't afford this, or I can't hold down a job because of this, or, my child's been arrested and being treated unfairly it feels like they're being treated unfairly by the legal system because they're not recognizing what's going on here. There are so many things that we have talked with people about, so many people we know that we can draw on their experiences as well. So many stories out there. And what we're really hoping to do with Specialness is augment our stories, also bring other stories out there, and hopefully provide, I'm not going to say answers, I'm not going to say direction, but I like the idea of saying hope.
Yeah, I do too.
That there's just...
They're not
alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're not alone. And
their child's worth fighting for.
Their child is worth fighting for.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing. So there you have it. We brought everyone up to the current. 1 week before Cason's birthday, from the time he was born until now. So next time you see us, we're going to be talking about something more specific. We're not sure what it is yet,
right?
But we're going to think about it, and we're going to try to give back to this community in a way that hopefully helps people. And thank you very much for joining us through this journey so far, and we hope you'll continue to do that. And until then, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Kim.
And this is Specialness. Thank you.